wants more than just Donbas. His ambitions are much broader. New assessments by Western experts and intelligence agencies indicate that the Kremlin's territorial demands have long gone beyond the borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Moscow does not see Donbas as its ultimate goal, but rather as one element of a much larger strategy aimed at shifting the security balance in Eastern Europe and putting pressure on the West as a whole.
And now, more information in our report. My name is Yevhen Sirov. This is the Glavred channel. Subscribe and give us a like. Let's get started.
Political analysts have noted that statements contradicting the narrative of limited war aims are surfacing with increasing frequency in Russian public rhetoric. On the one hand, certain Russian negotiators have begun to claim that the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from the Donbas region could be a viable pathway toward a lasting peace. On the other hand, high-ranking Russian officials and military commanders openly talk about the need to create so-called buffer zones in the territories of Kharkiv, Sumy, and also Dnipropetrovsk regions. According to experts, this directly indicates Russia's intention to expand its control far beyond the current front line. ISW reports emphasize that the Kremlin's demands are not limited to just territories. At the same time, Moscow is putting forward political and strategic conditions that concern the entire European security system. Among them is the insistence on NATO abandoning further expansion and revising the alliance's role in Eastern Europe. Thus, according to Western analysts, the war against Ukraine is being used by Russia as a tool to pressure the West in order to weaken its institutions and influence. Additionally, we draw attention to the fact that the rhetoric of Russian politicians within the country is very dynamic. In the State Duma and on federal television channels, statements have repeatedly been made that the issue of Donbas is only part of a broader confrontation with Ukraine. Statements by Russian officials include calls to change Kyiv's political course, as well as ideological accusations that the Kremlin traditionally uses to justify aggression. According to experts, this confirms that Russia's territorial claims are closely intertwined with its attempts to influence Ukraine's domestic politics. The Kremlin's position is also clearly evident in the context of international negotiations. The Russian side has repeatedly stated that hostilities will not cease without territorial concessions from Ukraine. At the same time, according to Western media reports, the demands from Moscow concern not only the occupied areas of Donbas, but also an extensive level of control over Ukraine's eastern and southern regions. The Ukrainian authorities categorically reject such approaches, emphasizing that any attempts to impose peace in exchange for territory are unacceptable. President of Ukraine Zelensky has repeatedly stressed that Ukraine will not agree to the loss of its territories and will not recognize any ultimatums from the aggressor. According to him, making concessions to the Kremlin will not lead to lasting peace, but will only create the conditions for a new escalation. This position is also shared by many of Ukraine's Western partners, who believe that satisfying Moscow's maximalist demands will only encourage further aggression. Assessments by American and European intelligence agencies also indicate that Putin's strategic goals may extend far beyond the Donbas. A significant number of analytical reports emphasize that the Kremlin seeks to re-establish full control over Ukraine as a whole, or at the very least, to turn it into a dependent and weakened state. These expansive geopolitical ambitions are explained and motivated not only by military strategic interests, but also by the deeply rooted ideological beliefs of the Russian leadership.